In this video, we're going to be looking at Diffie-Hellman or Diffie-Hellman Key Exchange. We're going to take a look at what it is, what it's used for, why we need it, and we're going to also do some examples and calculate it on paper. So let's get started. So firstly, what is Diffie-Hellman Key Exchange? It's an asymmetric encryption scheme, which means it uses a public-private key pair, and it is used as a secure method to generate a shared secret over an insecure channel, like the internet, for example. It's sometimes abbreviated DHKE, or Diffie-Hellman Key Exchange. And yeah, let's jump into it. So, we're going to take Alice and Bob as examples of our two parties that want to communicate to each other, and they want to exchange a secret key. So, how do they do that? They use Diffie-Hellman. So P in Diffie-Hellman, similar to RSA, is going to be a large prime number. G is a small generator value. This is usually a 2 or 3 or a 5. Now, unlike RSA, where you got like a E, where it's normally going to be quite a large value, G is always small. It's always going to be 2, 3, or 5 in practice, and that's even with a large prime number. So got some notation here. So A we're using for Alice's private key, B for Bob's private key, and A and B are randomly generated or randomly chosen numbers. It's any number that's smaller than P, and sometimes it's written as this denotation right here, A equals A, and then the set of 1 to P minus 1. So if you see that, that's all it's saying, is just saying that A and B are smaller than P. And then we've got pub A, which is Alice's public key, pub B, which is Bob's public key, and then K. That's the shared secret that we're going to generate. That's what we're going to get out of this. So first, let's put P and G up top. Both Alice and Bob know this. Anyone else can know this without sacrificing the security of the algorithm. And then we're going to draw down, line down the middle, because each party, Alice and Bob, are going to generate separate components. So Alice picks a private key, which is any number smaller than P, as we just talked about. Bob does the exact same thing. And now Alice generates her public key. And she does this by taking our G value to the power of A, Alice's private key, mod P, the shared large prime. And that equals Alice's public key. And then Bob does the exact same thing, but with Bob's own private key. So it's G to B, Bob's private key, mod P, the shared prime number. And then they exchange those public keys, because as we know, public keys, anyone can know them without sacrificing the security of the algorithm. So they can just send it to each other over text, over email, whatever, it doesn't matter. And now Alice calculates their shared secret. And she does this by taking Bob's public key to the power of Alice's private key, mod P. And then Bob does the reverse. Bob takes Alice's public key to the power of his own private key, mod P. And then this results in them both having the same value. Now, I think Diffie-Hellman is really cool because it's kind of magic, right? Like, how do these people use different numbers, different calculations, but come to the same value? Really, really interesting. It's one of my favorite algorithms in cryptography. So let's take a look at an actual example on how to make it happen. Here we go. So we're picking 29 as our P value, just a prime number. And we're taking 2 as our G value. Again, G will be 2, 3, or 5. Here we're using the smallest value just for simplicity. And we draw our line again. So now Alice picks a private key. Alice has chosen 5 in this case. Can be anything between 1 and 28. Doesn't need to be a prime number, doesn't need to be anything special, just any number. Bob does the same thing and he picks 12. Now Alice calculates her public key. So remember that's our G value to the power of Alice's private key, mod P. So in this case it's 2 to the power of 5, mod 29, and we get 3. Now Bob does the same thing. G to the power of his private key, 12, mod 29, and Bob gets 7. So now we got 3 and 7 as our two public keys. These are then exchanged And then we calculate the shared secret. So Alice takes Bob's public key to the power of her own private key, mod p. So that's 7 to the power of 5, mod 29, and we get 16. Bob does the same thing, but with his own numbers. So he ends up with 3 to the power of 12, mod 29, and equals 16. Yeah, there we go. And then we've got a shared secret, which is 16. And then that could be used as a symmetric key to encrypt large amounts of data, for example. Yeah, could be anything. And really, really interesting, really, really cool algorithm. Try it yourselves with other numbers, see how it works. But yeah, there you have it. So why is it useful? Why do we need Diffie-Hellman? So I've already mentioned we can use it for securely sharing keys. Really important. It's used a lot in the internet. When you're in your browser, you'll be using Diffie-Hellman without even knowing about it, because your browser, your client, and the server you're talking to, let's say Google, you want to exchange data securely. So to do that, you need to exchange a key first, and Diffie-Hellman is really commonly used to do that. Yeah, and it overcomes a major issue with symmetric cryptography, because with symmetric keys, no one can know it without sacrificing the security of the algorithm. So it's really important that we have a nice way of sharing those symmetric keys to each other. As I mentioned, it's often used today in browsers. So browsers use TLS, really, really common algorithm. I'll talk about it in a future video. But it's also used in SSH, which is another means of securely communicating, and IPsec, again, really commonly used protocols for two parties talking to each other. And Diffie-Hellman is a really, really great way of exchanging a shared symmetric key so we can more efficiently exchange data. We've also got ephemeral Diffie-Hellman, or DHE, which is really popular today because it's more secure. And what it really is exactly the same as Diffie-Hellman, but you use a different key each time. So ephemeral, every time you use a new key exchange, you drop the key, create a new one. A little bit slower because of that, because you need to recalculate each time, but it was much more secure because you're not reusing those keys. And just a couple of security considerations. We need to make sure that our P, A, and B values are very large. So our public key and Alice and Bob's private key are really large. So because of this, we normally set 2048 bits for our value of P. So a really, really large prime number, just like RSA, to ensure that there's going to be fewer collisions and to make sure that people can't brute force it and that kind of stuff. And then, as always, you got to keep your private keys secure. That's probably the main, not issue, but the main security consideration when dealing with cryptography in these senses, is that losing or having a private key stolen is the easiest way to compromise the integrity and the security of your data. So keeping that private key secure is paramount. We need to make sure that we keep it safe. And yeah, that's it. That's all I wanted to show you. So thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was useful. Like I said, give it a go yourself. Throw in your own numbers for PEG, make up your own private keys, and try and calculate it yourself, and you'll see that you'll always be able to get the same shared value. Yeah, awesome. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.